This is More Than a Game, Heartbreak Beyond Sports with Ryan and Cam. We're on the Love Trainwrecks Podcast Network. Cam, how you doing today?
I think I'm doing good. This is our second episode.
Episode 2.
I still can't remember the name of the podcast, so I'm glad you're doing the intro.
Yeah. You know, it took us a while to come up with it and go back and forth and, you know, mix it up. And
the sad thing is that I'm the one that found the name.
Yeah,
and I can't remember it.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. And, you know, just to remind you one more time, you are listening to More Than a Game, Heartbreak Beyond Sports. This is Ryan. I am Cam. We got another great story. You know, sad, heartbreaking, that is. And this is a story that you found for us, Cam. I'm going to let you take lead off here.
Yeah, kind of a sad story for some, happy story for others. Kind of those who were sad are happy in the end. Kind of a all-around feel-good, sad, rejoicing in the end kind of story.
Yeah.
Something to kind of pick your day up at the end. Something different.
So today we're going to talk about when the original Baltimore Colts left to go to what we now know them as the Indianapolis Colts. Talk a little bit about that story, how they did it, how the controversy, the heartbreakness behind it, how it broke at the time the hearts of, you know, everyone there in Baltimore and the whole state of Maryland to lose their team. I mean, they had Johnny Unitas there, and people say that was the greatest game ever played and the game that really launched the NFL into what we know it is today. And for them to just rip the hearts out of those fans.
And I was kind of thinking about that. You know, I'm a Niners fan, you're a Packers fan. You know, we have our teams that we root for, and I was just kind of trying to put myself in the place of those Baltimoreans. Is that what we're calling them?
Yeah.
Just to have your team just not only relocate, but almost in the middle of the night, as the story goes.
Yeah, they just came up with the trucks and started packing everything up, desks and everything, and just took it off.
You wake up in the morning, you look at the news, and your team is now in a whole, not only a different city, a different state. Mm-hmm. You know, you were on the East Coast, they're in the Midwest now.
Yeah, and then some of the interviews I saw, you know, it was just heartbreaking for those fans. They said they couldn't watch the NFL. They definitely couldn't watch the Indianapolis Colts, you know, watching their team. And because the Colts originated and they were established in 1953, okay? It was a very prominent team in the NFL. They had success really early on, winning NFL championships in 1958, 1959, and eventually securing a Super Bowl victory in 1970.
So you want to know a funny thing? You know, growing up as a little kid, you know, or at least I always thought that whatever the team mascot was, that's the animal that lived in the state. So when I found out that, you know, based on the Preakness, you know, happening in Baltimore is why they named the team after the Colts.
Right, yes.
And then moving to Indianapolis, I get you now.
Yeah, exactly. There's no horses in Indianapolis. That's the running joke. Like, you know, they move teams, they move places, you know, there's no lakes, there's no this, you know. I think basketball did that, you know, basketball in the movie.
Minnesota to LA.
Yeah, and then back, or like the what was it? Vegas to Oakland and then to LA and then back to Oakland, and nobody seemed to notice, you know, with the Raiders.
At all.
Yeah.
At all. They're just all three are homes to the Raiders.
And I think it's sad, you know. Yeah, I don't want to see teams, especially teams like this who helped build the NFL, you know, in certain sports you call them like the original six in hockey. You know, a team that kind of was one of the original staples, and that's what I think a lot of that fan base felt like the Colts were. You know, the Maryland people, they had the Colts. They had to compete with teams like New York. You know, you had to Baltimore had to compete with the Yankees.
And as you mentioned, you know, the team was good. You know, they were winning NFL championships. They won a Super Bowl. You know, you know, the city had a team to be proud of. Yeah,
I mean, they did hit some struggles in the 80s, but I just think the country as a whole during that time hit a struggle in the 80s. So with declining numbers in the Irsay family, they were very proud of, like, this is our team, you know, this is not, I worked for this team. This isn't the city's team. And then he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Originally, you know, this is the father of who we now Jim Irsay. You know, his dad said some controversial things during the times, you know, and he really wanted a stadium, as all these NFL players do. The Bears want a stadium right now. These teams want new stadiums. If the city's not going to buy it for them, then they're going to go somewhere where the city will buy it for them. And that's the sad thing about sports, you know.
And they also had the backing of the Baltimore Orioles too. since they were playing in the same stadium, they both teams were pushing for a new stadium, and just the city could not pass legislative laws to use the tax dollars to support that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that I think some of these owners don't understand. That it's the taxpayers, it's you and I, the one footing the bills for a lot of these projects, and Irsay was struggling to keep his finances afloat. So he needed more money to keep the machine going, as they say. So, in 1984, Robert Irsay, with the odds of the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland, he wanted a new stadium, and Colts weren't drawing large crowds at their current stadium, and their stadium was falling apart. And, this was before you and I were alive. So I just went back and saw some of the videos and some of the pictures, and it didn't look like a great place to play. But
did you say 84?
Yeah, 1984 is when, it was during the time that, Robert Irsay was at odds with the city.
And right before that, that 83 draft, I think a lot of people consider that to be one of the top, 5-10 drafts, NFL drafts of all time. And at that time, John Elway was one of the top prospects. And the team was so bad that John Elway said, nope, I'm not going to play for them. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of forced to trade that pick that would have been Elway at the time, just because, at the time that team had fallen from grace.
Yeah, if they did have Elway, that could have changed that franchise.
Yeah. And they had to trade the pick just because of, kind of Elway, kind of pulling his
yeah, he was like the first Eli Manning, like before Eli Manning. Yeah, exactly. Eli Manning did that to the Chargers and ended up going to the Giants, but so Eli stole a page out of Elway's book.
Exactly. So just to kind of see where the Colts were, to go from Johnny Unitas and being this great franchise to kind of going so low to where a draft pick is saying, no, I'm not going to play for you, so we can see kind of the pressure that the team was under to kind of be better.
Yeah, and just like the heartbreaking thing, as we said, the move, they left Baltimore, they went to Indy, and it's how it happened, Cam. So, in 1984, it was night. All right, they bring in all these trucks, and they're like, tell them it's a training exercise, or you're taking inventory, or something like that.
Well, before you get there, did you know that there was a Senate meeting where they passed legislative law that would allow the city of Baltimore to take eminent domain of the team?
No, I didn't know that.
In March of 84. So that's also part of the reason that kind of prompted that move. Had they stayed there, the city of Baltimore could have taken ownership of the Colts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that is, I don't know how that would happen, but that is.
Oh, so the Irsays were like, no way, you're not taking my team.
Exactly. And that's kind of the same thing that Oakland, I believe, did to the Raiders, which kind of prompted Al Davis to make his move also. I don't usually side with the owners, but to have a city tell me that because of the stadium that I play in, you're going to come and take the ownership of my team.
Right, you can't do that because
somewhere else.
Well, that would be a long battle in court because they spend so much money on these teams.
Oh, they end up having to pay out for moving, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure you got to pay the city for 10 years or something. There's a lot of financial moving parts that I didn't want to dive into because I'm not a lawyer.
Me neither. But that trucking company that you mentioned, the CEO of that company was one of Irsay's friends.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, he's
definitely a buddy inside.
And they said they moved out in 8 hours?
8 hours. They took everything. They took the desks. I mean,
I can't pack up a house in 8 hours. How do you pack up a whole NFL team?
I mean, you just have a lot of people, and you're used to packing stuff up to get them on the planes to go to road games. So they're probably like, all right, take this, and this. They probably took inventory long before that,
And I heard when the trucks left out of Baltimore, they took different routes because they were scared that the state police would stop them because of that eminent domain legislative bill that had passed. Mm-hmm. So all the trucks took different routes out. And when they got into Indiana, the state police from Indianapolis escorted them to the stadium.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because at the time, Indianapolis was eager to attract an NFL team. The city was, they had a strong football history, thanks to the Indiana Hoosiers and then the Indianapolis 500. So it offered, a lot of things for them to be able to build a new stadium for the Colts. So the city, promised financial incentives, to the Irsay family, which ultimately proved, attractive, more attractive than staying in Baltimore.
I was able to find a video. I don't know if we'll be able to patch it in later, but it was kind of like a pitch to the team of the why to move to Indianapolis. And, it was kind of up and coming city and, kind of vibrant. We have a brand new stadium for you guys, just like the other new air domes that are being built. So it's definitely an attractive offer, a city that actually wants you, kind of, burgeoning sports city. Why not move?
Yeah. And, it's just, there's a lot of reasons to move, but then it just goes back to how they moved, how they ripped the hearts out of the city of Baltimore. And they've been able to recover because they now have a new team. But we're talking about here and put yourself in 1984 and they don't have a lot of sports teams and there wasn't any of these expansion teams yet. So, it's nighttime. It's March 28th, 1984. And while largely most of the city of Baltimore was unaware, Robert Irsay made the decision to move the team to Indianapolis, and the Colts owner moved in secret. He did it in the cover of darkness with, like I said, those moving vans, transport vans, teams of equipments, and then like you said, the police escort that Indianapolis did when he got there. I mean, it was basically laid out for him.
Right before they moved, the NFL declared that there weren't going to be any expansion teams anytime soon. So once they moved, kind of Baltimore was kind of SOL on having a football team for at least several years.
They went on. I mean, eventually the move did go through, and the Indianapolis Colts did, moved to Indianapolis. They went no team until 1996, I think, is when the Baltimore Ravens finally came back. They had a couple expansion teams beforehand. I think like Jacksonville got a team.
So that was
Jacksonville was in like 1993.
That was kind of a disappointing.
1993. It went to Jacksonville instead of Baltimore. So Baltimore was like, "Oh, I'm so sad it didn't." Jacksonville, they got why Jacksonville? Why not here? And so that was definitely hard for the city.
And sad enough that the only way they got a team back was because Cleveland had to lose their team. So Cleveland, because of their financial struggles, had to. They kind of moved to Baltimore. Baltimore promised Art Modell a new stadium, $25 million loan, I believe. So, Baltimore, the city, kind of understood the importance of having a new stadium to attract teams, to keep teams, to, build up the city. So they offered, to build them a new stadium because I think in large part because of the team they lost wanting to have a new stadium.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And now the Browns, they ended up becoming one of the expansion teams and they came back. I mean, it's just, it's just crazy. And it's just, there was a lot of struggles for the city of Baltimore. I'm sure there was a lot of jobs, a lot of things around there that were lost during that time, during those struggles. And, that's what I feel for the city, for the fans, for the people who worked there, people who had jobs there.
And I even heard that Johnny Unitas was so pissed that he kind of shunned the franchise for making that move from Baltimore. He even told the NFL in the Hall of Fame, do not advertise, do not show any of his gear, any of his stats, unless it specifically says Baltimore Colts. So he does not want to be associated with the Indianapolis Colts franchise.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal, and that has a lot to do with the legacy of the Baltimore Colts and the Indianapolis Colts. And
shows the hurt and anger, disappointment, all that. You figure with Unitas and those teams, the blood, sweat, and tears they put in for not only that franchise, but that city. Yeah,
like I said, they built the NFL. Unitas and that team and those Super Bowls, that helped build the NFL into what we know it is today, because the NFL wasn't this big conglomerate. It wasn't accepted on TV. I mean, I don't feel like we weren't alive, but it didn't sound like it dominated Sunday, like we know it does now. And, Robert Irsay took over the team. He purchased the team in 1972. So he went through the 70s and then the 80s, the struggles. And when the team was poorly performing, he just said, "Oh, I'm gone," up and left.
I'm out.
Overall, when you look back on it now in 2024, it's like, hey, it worked out,
And rarely does it not work out for the owners. Rarely do the owners ever consider the average Joe. Working the 9 to 5 has the life that's not easy, and uses the team, the Baltimore Colts, who at the time, when they first started was good, maybe not as good now, but uses the team as an escape, uses the team as a way to, get away with his buddies, have a beer, Just watch the team, and then you're going to rip that out for me?
Yeah, and
because you don't want to front the money to get a new stadium?
Yeah, and like I just don't think he had it back then. You know, like the NFL, they weren't getting the TV deals. There wasn't the dollars like that in the 80s like there was now. So if you wanted a stadium back then, you needed that public funding. Nowadays, these team owners, people who are buying them, are already multi-billionaires. They can fund their own stadium or get their own loan from a bank because the banks will give, they should give it to them. They're like, oh, this person's worth all this money. So it shouldn't be on the taxpayers anymore, And if they do, then the taxpayers deserve to get that money back. Okay, if I'm fronting you this money, then the team's going to pay me back in revenue over X amount of years. So then I'm not just fronting money and never get,
exactly.
They're like, you get the tax dollars from people coming and spending money and doing this. So they get but I don't think it balances out. They call it the trickle down effect. And, I'm not an economist, but I do understand money and I just don't see it.
It never trickles down.
I just don't see it, and it's just a lot of betrayal. And then the Irsay family still has it, and they seem like great people, and it seems like what they have going on in Indianapolis is great for this area, and
it kind of worked out with Baltimore. I mean, the Ravens, as much as I dislike them as a 49ers fan, they are a very, very successful franchise. You can count on them to.
But think about it, that team was the Browns. The Browns could be. They won it, because the Ravens went on and won a Super Bowl, with Ray Lewis and them boys.
Cleveland's disappointments are a different story. There's something about Cleveland where you just can't win unless you're one of the greatest of all times, LeBron James.
You're right. You need LeBron.
So, but just as we started the episode, I don't know how I would feel as a White Sox fan, as a Bulls fan, to have my team just up and leave. I know there's threats to go to Tennessee.
I just don't see it happening.
But I don't know. Could I root for the Nashville White Sox?
And that'd be crazy. We were talking, in episode 1, we talked about Aaron McNair in Tennessee and how they moved from Houston to there. So it'd be crazy. I mean, could the city of Chicago give up a team? I would hate to see that. I have a lot of friends that are White Sox fans. I'm a diehard Cubs fan. Don't care if they go, honestly. It would suck for the city of Chicago. And I do enjoy the ballpark. It has good food.
Better than Wrigley.
The food is better than Wrigley, yeah. But
the stadium's better than Wrigley, too.
Oh, definitely not better than Wrigley. Wrigley's definitely a far better stadium, far better atmosphere.
Recently got rid of the rats.
Far better after game experience. You can just pile out and go to Sheffield's or go to the Cubby Bear.
Only reason it's easy is because you have to go on foot.
That's good. I mean, take public transportation. It's safe. You've probably been drinking beers at the game. You shouldn't get behind the wheel of the car anyway. I always encourage public transportation and safe driving.
That's a good point. Hurts.
So you want to have
we're going to be drunk after the game, especially after losing 121 in the year.
Yeah, what a tough season. And it just brings back to the heartbreaking sports. We're here to talk about that this is more than a game. And, this is more than just a team to the city of Baltimore. The Irsay family just saying, like, this is mine, I paid for it, and ripping it away. I just feel so bad for the team. And then they have the stories. They did that 30 for 30 on the band that just didn't stop playing. They played after the Baltimore left, and they went and played at the, like you said,
they barely had time to grab their uniforms and their instruments.
Right, barely had time to get all that stuff. They were able to get the uniforms because they were at the dry cleaners, and then they took them from the dry cleaners and hid them, and then eventually Irsay's wife let them keep all that, and they went on and played the band. According to the 30 for 30, went on and played all kinds of stuff and really kept the city alive for football, and probably led to them getting the Baltimore Ravens was because of that band and everything that they stood for, and everything that those people in that band sacrificed, their time, their money, their effort to keep it going and keeping it alive. That's a great thing. It just shows passion and the love for that team and football and Maryland, and it's a good thing to see. It's been a great episode. It was a great story that you picked, and if you love the show, you can support us by buying a cup of coffee at thelovetrainwrecks.com. If you want to chime in about the show, you have anything to say about the move from the Baltimore Colts to Indianapolis and what we know them as now, the Indianapolis Colts, you can definitely email us at thelovetrainwrecks@gmail.com. We'll catch you in the next episode.
See you later.